Here we are, Changeling Kingdom, we're finally here.
Special accent on finally.
Shush, we arrived, that's what matters.
If you would listen to me and turn left, we would be here a lot sooner. Why couldn't you trust me?
Listen, I witnessed what was happening during Cartoons and Thunderblight events, so by default I don't trust evil alter egos unless they somehow prove that they are not that bad. You, as a demon, are not far from them.
Okay, now you're not only biased against me, but also getting racist. Just because I'm a demon doesn't mean I have to be all that bad. But in your book, every one of my kind is a lost cause.
None of them proved me wrong so far.
Just like unreformed changelings.
Kinda. If they are good, it means they are a colorful stag beetle.
Well, isn't that funny that we are in the Changeling Kingdom? Because you might be forced to eat your words when you're done with your another review.
We'll see about that. And check. This season is really spoiling me. One of my wishes was to see more of the new changelings, because MLP tends to leave some plots open and not continuing them. A little development, something to show how they are adjusting to new life of not feeding on love. And we actually get to see some of that. Already a big plus. But I still have some issues with this episode. However, for now let's focus on the main plot of the episode. Pharynx, Thorax's older brother. Okay, question. We can assume that all the changelings are bred by one mother, Chrysalis. So technically speaking, all the changelings are brothers. So why is Pharynx his brother but every other changeling not? Man, my head hurts from thinking about it. Let's get to the topic. Here's yet another thing I hoped for season 7 will address, and it did. Kinda. Not every changeling being reformed. We got it foreshadowed 2 episodes ago as a whole renegade group, but now apparently Pharynx is the only one left. And of course, as an unreformed changeling, he's not the nicest character around, harassing everyone around and destroying almost everything around, while giving typical bully excuse, it's fun. And obviously not even thinking about reform, despite the fact that it's pretty clear other changelings prefer this new lifestyle over the old under Chrysalis' reign. I would understand attitude alone, but also this viewpoint, old ways were better even when having clear evidence it's not true. Yeah, he seems to be a lost cause. Or at least that's what all of us thought until...
Story time with Thorax. Apparently, back in the old days, even though Pharynx was still a bully, he was the only one who stood up for Thorax when other changelings were harassing him. Quite an interesting contrast to what we've seen so far, don't you think? Looks like despite his attitude, he always cared about his younger brother as well as the rest of the hive. So much that even when he was about to leave it, he couldn't leave it with Wolf destroying everything around and causing threat to others. In other words, he was showing love and care for others, but in his own way. Really sweet, don't you think?
Yeah, Pharynx is yet another example of how we should not judge the book by its cover. And let's face it, for the most time he really acts like a bully for no bigger reason than harassing others. Later we've seen that this is just his way of being and trying to accomplish what others couldn't, which is protecting the hive, because other changelings become a bit too peaceful and forgot how to defend themselves. So he, as the only unreformed changeling, is the only one with some combat experience and right attitude. But eventually even he changed to a new form, when other changelings realized their mistake and how judgmental they were and finally accepted him. He wasn't the nicest one around, but that's how the old changelings were. And he even said at some point that this is all because others became too soft and without him are easy target for any danger. But now he is both reformed and in charge of hive's safety. So it's a win-win, right? And his reformed design is pretty cool too, giving the vibes of second in charge of the hive and turning changeling leadership into something similar to equestrial leadership. And isn't it funny that Big Brother is Little Brother and Little Brother is Big Brother? And all that, not quite thanks to Starlight. Okay, she may have pushed things into right direction and the idea of using Malware for that actually worked, but still, Starlight did put the whole hive in danger by luring that big thing there. Did she ever consider every possibility of why this is a terrible idea? However, it's interesting to see her being on the other side as someone who was considered a lost cause by many, and now it's her to consider Pharynx a lost cause, until she heard his and Thorax's story. Something that I'm neutral on, but many wanted her to experience, the perspective of other ponies that considered her a lost cause once. It's another proof that we shouldn't judge someone without all the necessary knowledge. That's why Starlight was considered a lost cause, that's why Pharynx was as well, by her and other changelings. Thing I do like, however, is Thorax. Once again, he has a pretty good continuity and shows a consistent growth as a character and leader. The lesson he received from Ember was not forgotten, and he even said that he made a good use of it by convincing other unreformed changelings to reform. And he's doing a good job of leading the Hive, however he is still a bit of a timid and shy character instead of fully assertive right after that one time. Which fits considering also the fact of being pressured by the rest of the Hive. However, at the same time, he's not afraid of letting his frustration out, just like during the final scene when he called Starlight on her action and how much she almost messed up big time. I quite like this progression. As for the rest of the changelings, it's good to see that they also progress, are much more individual and have more everyday activities. However, I'm not as good with their progression as I am with Thorax. He was a good character from the beginning. The rest of the Hive were not as good. I like that little note in Celestial advice that they might still deal with old habits, and I was hoping to see some of it here too. Instead, they are all already fully good, unlike Thorax who is still dealing with some of his old struggles. But I'm not gonna jump on them for being judgmental. They didn't know everything and understood their mistake. That redeems them a bit, I think. Last thing worth mentioning is Trixie. You know, I appreciate her in Season 6 finale and tolerated, but barely in All Bottled Up. But after this episode, she's back once again to don't like category. I'm sorry, but I personally can't stand arrogant and egotistical characters. Still, something like that was needed. Even just for the sake of not dropping the topic of new changelings just like that and basically go with, oh they are good now, just roll with it. Instead, they are now more fleshed out. However, some issues still remains. Biggest is probably the fact that all of them are pretty much good just like that. After years of being violent predators, one magic cocoon and boom, all good now, without any traces of old habits. That's not quite how things works. And I should probably also point out how cooler would be if the reformation of unreformed changeling didn't happen off screen. I think the episode would be much cooler if the goal would be to convince Pharynx to change so he would give an example to other renegades. But we have what we have, and I can only hope that Pharynx will remain as a head of Hive safety. And his reformed design is also nice. Thorax is also a fine element for me, as we see his progression as a character and leader, caring for the good of everyone, yet also giving individual attention to his brother. It's not out of realm of possibility to have struggles like him, trying to find middle ground between love for brother and subject's happiness. With Starlight, I have a problem. As much as props for not trying to find a magical solution, this time I have to admit, she messed up big time by luring that mole wolf to the Hive, which could be a big danger for it, no matter with or without Pharynx in it. Thorax had all the right to be angry at her. In the end, this is pretty good episode, however for me it's not one of my favorites. Positives are kinda balanced by negatives, but I still think this is a good and needed addition. I'm Shapwit, thanks for watching.
You want to tell me something?
Okay, I may have been biased against you, judging you for the sheer fact that you are a demon. I'm sorry.
Accepted. You also needed that lesson, just like Starlight. Besides, one of your friends gave me something to cheer up. A little picture of your last trip in a cafe a few days ago.
A trip? What trip?
And I have to say, you look quite adorable on it, you sly little pony. Why so surprised? I only said you are judgmental, but I never said you are wrong. And I couldn't just pass that opportunity to tease you with it.
Why, you little... Get back here!